Wow, I wasn't expecting that trailer. That was amazing.
Yeah, let me tell you, I did not expect that either. That really snuck up on me.
I like it. I really created the vibe. Anyway, let's start. Hi everyone. This is the Slow Game Club. It's the book club for video games, which is what I think is amazing. Every month, for starting January, this is a bonus month. We will be playing a mystery noir type game together. There is a Discord you can join, and then every month you get to talk with me, unfortunately, and the amazing devs from whatever game we play. If you don't know, Intergames are amazing. They do resources to help those from low economics groups to get into games. So they provide equipment, education. I love them, obviously. That's why I'm here. So if you would like to subscribe, there should be a little thing that runs around the bottom. If not, I will post it in the Discord channel as soon as I get 2 seconds. Anyway, I'm Jazeena. I'm a host. I work in the game industry as well, and I just love gaming. If you're like me, I struggle to play new games, so this is perfect. But let me move you over to Özcan because this is why we're here. We're not here for me. We're here for Holy Gosh Darn, an amazing game that I actually just completed this morning from Perfectly Paranormal and published by... Oh, went out of my head. The Orgscast. Over to you, Özcan. Özcan's internet is a bit tricky. So if it lags, I will fill in the gaps awkwardly like this. And then hopefully his internet will come back and we can crack on as normal. Are we back?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are. Hello. Here I am. What did I miss?
I introduced you kind of, and then I just segued because your internet went. And I will keep doing those segues if your internet goes. And we will... it's internet. We can't handle it. So
Okay.
tell us all about yourself.
Okay. Hello, I'm Osan. I have shoddy internet right now. But apart from that, I'm also the creative lead and writer / narrative designer, I guess, of Perfect Paranormal. We make comedy adventure games with a unique gameplay mechanic, just like a cherry on top, so that you don't actually ever point or click or anything, even though our games do have point and click adventure vibes. The vibe is the same, the gameplay is different.
I love that. And I don't know if I warned you that you're going to be doing this, but it's okay. In your own words, tell us about Holy Gosh Darn. I could tell you about it, but I probably wouldn't do it as much justice as you would.
Okay. Oh, wow.
No pressure.
There's really not... I haven't pitched the game or talked about what it is in few words for a long time, but I did have something memorized. Let me see if I can dig it out of my brain. The Holy Gosh Darn is a comedy adventure game. But we did change it to comedy action game because we thought comedy adventure didn't do it justice. It has a lot of exciting parts. So it's more of a comedy action game where you play as an angel called Cassiel, who is an angel, and she has to save heaven from blowing up at 6 o'clock because of something that happened in another game in the series. And to do this, you get to borrow a time-space logic piece, a clock, from the embodiment of death to find an artifact who's missing, created by God, who's also missing.
So everyone is missing, and that's where the mystery comes in, right? It's like, let's find these people. What is going on? And I feel like my feeling, and I mean this in the best way possible, the whole game, I was like, what is going on? But in the best way possible. I'm also, it's already 6 minutes into this podcast, and I'm also already I'm upset with you already. I just want you to know this because you introduce yourself and what you do, and what impact that you've had in the game. But I feel like you really didn't cover the impact and everything that you did in the game. So I'm going to tell people what you do, and I'm going to make you talk about that a bit more, if that's okay.
Okay.
So if you don't know, Perfectly Paranormal is quite a small studio. And I didn't realize how small it was until I watched the credits, right? Being in the game industry before, I never used to look at credits. Naughty, I know. Now I do. And all I saw was Izin's name just everywhere. I was like, what is um so can you tell me about how many characters that you voice? And I guess who was your favorite?
Let's see. Who did I voice? I was primarily gonna voice background characters. So the thing is, it sounds more uh impressive in the credits because I like to name all the characters, even though their name never like gets mentioned, or maybe in like the log files, or if you dig around. But so there's Emilial and the other guy who I have suddenly forgotten the name of. I never forget the name of a character, but I
Is
just
it
did.
Gerald?
Yes,
Gerald?
Gerardiel.
Yeah.
Gerardiel and Emilial. And also, I do the ring angel and the guy trying to get a permit to fix his shed in the government building. So that's four. I did the voice of all the elders. That's 24 extra characters. Have big roles, some have small. I do the voice of Carl, the bank robber, who's now a freelance artist. His voice I just did because I did his voice in Manuel Samuel, because in Manuel Samuel he only had one line. And there's a character called Red Eye that I initially did the voice of, also because he only had one line in Helheim Hassel. But I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, if we keep making those one-liner characters like important characters in the next games,
Yeah.
then I'm just gonna end up getting all the voices because I keep doing the like one-liner voices. So I recast Red Eye, even though I originally had his voice, which I'm glad for I did, because Dave did such a amazing job doing him. So that's Carl. Who else did I do? I did the
Swery.
yes, oh yes, Swery. That's the most beloved character that I did.
For
Uh,
those
uh,
that don't know, and I promise you, it's not a massive spoiler. It's a little one, so I will put my thumbs up once I've introduced him. But it's only a little tiny one. Sweary is a little jar that comes up if you swear in a certain biome in the game, and it's really cute.
yes, yes, he's the little swear jar demon of hell, tasked with. Oh, whoops! I've spoiled it. Jeez.
I think
Whatever. You
that's
know what?
okay. I think that's okay.
They just don't get to swear in hell. That's not a spoiler. That's just a fact.
Yeah, exactly, and I love it.
Yeah, and I do some dragons and some characters here and there. There's too many to, like, all kinds of small characters that just do, like, if they don't talk about anything super important, usually I do their voice.
I felt like playing the game. I really liked that all the characters felt unique. Even the one-liners, they felt unique. And how do you manage that? How do you make so many different characters unique?
um First of all, I only come up with a character out of necessity. I never like sit
Hmm.
down and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna like, I'll come up with a plot for whatever I'm writing, but I won't make the world, and I'll come up with a bunch of like characters with backstories and stuff, and then like try to like shoehorn them into the story. I'll only make the essential characters first, the protagonist. Like, I'll come up with a plot, and I'm like, all right, what kind of character would make this plot the most interesting? Like,
Mm-hmm.
in the Holy Gosh Darn, you have this plot where you have only 6 hours to save heaven, and everybody is like trying to slow you down. So I was like, okay, either I'm gonna have a character that usually isn't used to being fast, like a slow going, easy going character, or I'll have a character that completely emphasizes the urgency and have the most impatient character ever. And I went with the second one.
Yeah. I feel like you've done
Yeah.
that really well. When I was playing Cassiel, who is the main protagonist, I felt like how she felt and her facial emotions exactly how I felt. Like there'd be times when someone was speaking to me and I'm like, shut up. And there's a shut up button, which is amazing. And then sometimes I want them to shut up and that button isn't there yet. And I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to press it. And I'm like, I don't have enough time. How did you come up with that concept? I know this answer already because I went on your YouTube and I know the answer to this. But tell everyone else, how did you come up with that concept and that button and yeah, talk to me about that mechanic.
All right, then to do that, we have to go back in time, like in the
Oh,
Holy Gosh Darn, and talk about our first game, Manual Samuel, which is a different game. It's in the same trilogy. It happens on the same day as the Holy Gosh Darn, etc. However, in Manual Samuel, when there's a cutscene, you can skip the cutscene like you do in every other game.
yeah.
But there's a narrator in the game, and every time you skip a cutscene, he'll react to it because he wants to narrate the game. You skip the cutscene, and he'll go, "Oh, why do you keep skipping the cutscenes? And your attention span is horrible and stuff."
Yes.
And we loved that when we made that. We thought that was hilarious. But when watching, it's a narrative adventure game as well, Manual Samuel.
Yes.
So the people who were interested in Manual Samuel, like the YouTubers and stuff we watched, like they wouldn't skip any cutscenes. Why would they? They are here to experience this narrative adventure game, which is a good thing. But we were like, oh man, nobody got to see all the cool
Oh
skip
no.
reactions we made. So on Helheim Hassel, which is the second game in the trilogy, also going on the same day, we were like, yes, you can also skip the cutscenes in this game. And of course, we will have the game react to that again because that was so fun. And we always loved making that. In Helheim Hassel, we didn't have narrators. So then we had to come up with other ways of having the game react. Like the cutscene would skip and then the characters would just go, what just happened? I think I blacked out or I wasn't paying attention or something. And we had this one character that actually would say, because he was like a gamer dude, and he would go, skip this cutscene, boring, like every time you
Oh,
skipped
I
one of his
love that.
cutscenes.
Yeah.
And that was fun because he kind of acted like the way Cassiel is in the Holy Gosh Darn, like on his cutscenes, if somebody's like explaining something to him and you skip, then he would just go, I don't want to listen to this is boring. And we love making that. And I had kind of the outlines of a story for what the third game would be about. I really wanted to show like the consequences of something you did in an earlier game.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking about that plot. And then we were like, yeah, but what kind of cool gameplay mechanic are we going to go for? Is it going to be like body part related again, like the two first games? Are we going to be that studio that only makes body part games? and and we were like, well, there's that urgency in the thing, like she has to save heaven before something awful happens and things. And we do love making that skip
Yeah.
game mechanic on these games. What if we just made a game where the entire point is to skip dialogue? And that's the main gameplay mechanic of the Holy Gosh Darn. We added time travel to support that because we were like, okay, I mean, skipping everything is well and cool, and if that's something we're gonna encourage, but what if somebody skips something important and we're like, and then like, oh yeah, we can do time travel game. That would be cool. So the time travel part came in later, not much later, like in the
Oh.
brainstorming phase still, but initially we wanted to make a game about like the game is about skipping dialogue. That's the point of the game, and the time travel is only there to make it work as a gameplay mechanic.
I am gobsmacked, and I love that you're like answering the questions that I haven't asked yet. But I love that, by the way. Like I know a lot of people haven't played the game yet. But once you play it, remember that the time travel was an afterthought almost because it feels like such a crucial part of the game, and it I'm mind blown to know that that wasn't. You didn't go. I want to make a game about time travel. It was. I want to make this about the skipping
Yes.
mechanic, and that came in afterwards. I'm a bit mind blown. I'm gonna be like, what's my next question now? Because you've stumped me. Um, I guess talking about like game design and stuff. Is there like what was the most difficult thing that you had to fix in the game? What was that problem that you know every game that has that thing that just doesn't want to work? What was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much different things, honestly. There were problems about stuff left and right because for those who haven't played the game, you can turn back time for as long as you want in
Yeah,
segments of 15 minutes anytime you want, in middle of a conversation, in middle of a cutscene, like whenever you can decide you want to time travel. And additionally, whenever, since you can do whatever you want most of the time and trigger dialogues anytime you want, and heaven blows up at a certain fixed time, 6 o'clock, any conversation can also end at any time without you even, like, sometimes you would go like, oh, but this part is important, so let's not give the player the ability to make them shut up here so that they can like
yeah.
hear what they're supposed to do next. But heaven can still blow up just as
You
they're
mean
about to tell that
I've
stuff.
that happened to me? I'm like,
So, and since Cassiel remembers everything that happens to her, and one of the selling points is that her dialogue and attitude changes the more you have to listen to the same things over and over, we had to do some truly obscene dialogue branches. Like, not even because you had many choices, but just because heaven could blow up at any time. And next time you talk to this character, we wanted Cassiel to like automatically have them go further in the thing, or like go like, I heard this before, or hey, I know this and this about you, so tell me about this. Like, she would say that automatically because we didn't want her to say anything that she's said
yeah,
before. So even like simple dialogues that 99% of characters will only play through once, because they'll probably trigger those dialogues like at an okay time and then get to know all the things, just in case that one person out there triggered that dialogue at 5:45. There's like a bunch of different
wow.
branches um that remembers like at what point did this conversation end and what does Cassiel know, and then uses that the next time you trigger the same dialogue. Also, and this is a different thing, the the thing you can do with the clock, you can upgrade it to
Yeah,
do certain things.
the secret
Um,
things.
the thing, yeah. So but that's not a secret. You can upgrade the clock to have it do cool things.
Yeah,
That's not a spoiler. But one of the upgrades makes it do such a cool thing that when I pitched it to Gisle, that's our coder, the brain of the operation that puts all this together, I was like, I want the clock to work like this when you upgrade it. And like forget about coding, it was physically not possible to do it the way I want. Like, it would be an actual paradox to do it that way. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this Unity limitations, like real life didn't cut it the way real life works. So we had to like kind of change the way it works. But that one upgrade, the first upgrade that you get on the clock, that one caused us lots and lots of grief until we could have it work properly.
I'm trying to remember which one now the first one is, just for my own reasons, and I'm gonna
I'll
have to.
You know what, I'll say it. It's in the demo. You can bring items with you to the past.
Ah, yes,
And
yes.
in order to not make the player able to duplicate things forever and
I think I
things,
cheated on that a little bit.
I mean, if you did, then kudos, good job, because we were like, uh, as long as this doesn't blow up the universe in real life, then we were happy. We were like, as long as it works, and you can't duplicate things indefinitely. But
I
we
tried.
like I know you did. Everybody does. But
More
yeah, that one
money.
was a nightmare.
Um, what I really liked about the game as well, especially, can I call her Cassie?
Oh
Can I call
yeah.
her Cassie? Does she mind? Okay. Especially with Cassie, is she's funny, right? The whole game is funny, but like humor is subjective. We know this. Like, how did you find that line between offensive and funny? And or sometimes you find games that try to be funny and they're just obnoxious. And you got that balance perfectly. How difficult was that? How yeah, tell us about that.
So what I just do is um I use jokes as a I actually just use jokes as a tool as well, like I do with the characters. I don't have like a joke timer. I'm like, oh, somebody hasn't said something funny or done something funny for 7 minutes. I have to shoehorn something in here. All the fun things that happen is usually there's usually a reason for it. It might be to reinforce some kind of like rule of the world. Like
Hmm.
somebody might say, um, oh, that's as if somebody were to sit on God's throne. We would all be fricked. He says something like that, and like he says that for a reason because stuff happens, and I once this stuff happens, I don't want it to seem like it came out of nowhere. Or sometimes we'll use humor to like solve a very specific problem about something. Um, like the dragons in Helheim Castle. There's a dragon that has like a lot of stomach issues and things, and that ended up being pretty funny. But the reason we made that was because I wanted to make a game that happened inside of a dragon, so he eats you, and then you have to talk to him and stuff. But once we did that, out of necessity, that also helps us build the world because then in the Holy Gosh Darn, there's no such level. But we've set like a rule for the world. We're like, all right, dragons have stomach issues. So
Yeah.
you meet some dragons in the Holy Gosh Darn, and that's just the rule of the world. Like they have stomach issues.
You know what? I wondered. There's something that happens in the game, and I won't. It's really minor, but this dragon was doing something, and I was like, "Is he all right?" And I thought it might have
Yeah,
been something like later on. Like I thought maybe
right.
it's part of a quest, but it wasn't. It was just his personality. Well, not his personality, but that's
Well,
really interesting. And people,
if you play Helheim Hassel next, then it will be something later on because then you'll go, oh right, they foreshadowed this. The cool thing about the trilogy is that you can play them in any order and it will work and things will be revealed. But I do get the question of like how do you make dialogue funny, which many people find hard to do. And the way we do that is that we implement a dialogue straight away. Like I'll write a thing, like a conversation between two characters, and then it'll look good on paper. And then I'll read in all the lines in character, whether it's Cassiel or whoever. I do all the placeholder voices before we book real actors.
we
And
need to hear that. Just the game
yeah,
with
yeah,
just your voice.
there's like an awesome cut out there somewhere. But I'll do it straight away and then put it in the game, and I'll listen like how does it sound, like how many words are too many, how many places have room for more stuff. And I'm really impatient myself, so that
Yep.
helps. Like if I get bored from my own dialogue, I'm like, all right, so I'll iterate, I'll do new lines, I'll fix them, I'll write something new, and sometimes I'll hear something. Like sometimes there would be like in intentional unintentional rhymes and stuff when they're talking. Like I don't like that, so I like small details. Even if like somebody says three words in a row that start with the same letter, I'm like, oh, that sounded weird, but it looks good on paper. So I don't want to figure that stuff out as we are recording the stuff with a real actor. So it's very vocal the way everybody talks. It's not written. Like sometimes I'll do the line and I'll change it as I'm doing it, even though I've written something else, and then I'll write that instead. So the fact that I basically write vocally
That's
almost, I almost read in the lines before I've even written them, and I put them in the game straight away. Gislas taught me how to do that, but I'm useless when it comes to the more technical stuff in the game engine and things, and I don't code, but I've learned how to do that. He made a tool specifically for me. So I'll just sit like that when writing dialogue. Like I'll write the dialogue and then I'll listen to it, I'll play it, and I'll go, and then iterate until I'm happy with it, and then I'll iterate it 17,000 times more
I, I was
until
gonna ask, how
we
long does that take just for your iterations?
I mean, at a point when you are like familiar with the characters and the world, which I luckily am, um, it takes faster and faster. It depends on the character as well. Like
Mm,
in Helheim Hassel, we had this really cozy and nice, wholesome main character, which is not me at all. So like his dialogues were always hard for me to write, but I'd do it like that. And then I was exhausted after Helheim Hassel, so I wrote Cassiel. I just wrote me, and that was just to like give myself a break, because then I didn't have to think as much. I just go, how would I react if this happened? So that made it easier. Like, what would make me angry? That's easier to think than what would make this character angry. But then you get to know them. But yeah, it's I write with my mouth. That's the easy. That's the short answer to that
do you
question.
do you think I'm trying to put my brain into like a writer's brain right now? And what would a writer ask, right? Because you talk with your mouth and you reiterate so much times by yourself, does that mean that you have like less when you film it with the actors? Do you find that that whole process is a lot smoother? Do you have to do loads of retakes, or does that narrow it down?
Oh yeah, it narrows it a lot down, and our actors always brag about how good a director I am, because I know exactly what I want, because it has gone through so many iterations, and I've done the voices myself. So I'll even go like, can you add like half a second of a pause between those two words, and then at the end bring those together. Like I'll give really specific feedback. But I also we spend. I make it sound like I made the game alone. I didn't. I don't. Uh, but we spent a lot of time on casting the characters as well, like listening, trying to imagine. Sometimes like somebody will do an audition that is completely different than what I like imagined when I did
Of
the
course. Mm.
voices and stuff. And if we cast them, like if I really fall in love with some kind of audition that's a whole new take on the character, I'll go in and rewrite some lines so that they fit that voice better. That's also
Oh,
something I do. So yeah, but by the time we sit down and we're gonna record with an actor, we are really efficient, because I know exactly what they're capable of and what like I want out of them, and they like
someone
that.
I think that's really good. I've spoken to a few voice actors, and one of their pet peeves is like the directors don't know what they want. So that's it's quite nice. Someone mentioned in the chat that they wonder if the game Blazing Dragons had like influence on some of the games, and I guess that asks like a bigger question: what influence? Were there any influences in the Holy Ghost Down? What were they, and how did you utilize that?
So, two main things that the story of the Holy Gashtarn is inspired by is the book Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. It's about angels and demons and stuff, and I
Mm.
really love that book. And I like, as I said, I'm really impatient, so like a book has to capture me from the first paragraph or I'll put it down. But I
Yeah, I'm the
read that
same.
book in like one day, and I don't know, I've always loved the mythology, like mythology characters and gods and demons and angels and stuff.
Same.
And another thing that has influenced the Holy Gashtan in particular a lot is the movie Dogma. I mean, I even lifted like one of the concepts from that movie, and I'm not afraid to um, admit that. But in that movie, there are two angels that are trying to return to heaven, but them returning to heaven would prove God wrong, because God said you'll never step foot in heaven again. So if they do return to heaven, then that would mean that God was wrong. But God is ineffable, so
Yeah.
him being wrong would be a paradox, and a reality would like erase itself. And the same thing is the thing in the Holy Gashtan, the phantoms, the thing that blow up heaven is something that God has said is not gonna be a thing, and then it is a thing, and that's what causes the paradox. I love that like, oh yeah, he's ineffable, and so if he's wrong, like that can't happen, so reality will just erase itself. But in our world, all of the mythologies and religions are fact, so like we couldn't erase the entirety of existence, because you have Odin and Thor and Bastet and all the other gods existing somewhere. So like they all have their own domains. So that would just mean that his domain is the one that gets erased, which is heaven. And we also thought it was more hilarious that you have to save heaven in particular and not the universe. Like, heaven? Really? Heaven needs saving?
Yeah.
What is this game?
I remember, I won't like be specific because this is quite a big spoiler, but there was a moment in the game where that whole, like, I think Cassie just had that conversation like, well, how, why isn't God all seeing, what, how's this going on? And I
Right.
did chuckle to myself. I was like, um was there like any, without being like too specific, because I know people like to find stuff, is there anything hidden in the game that we should keep our eyes out for? Anything that you've like gone, oh, I hope people find this, that you've like hidden?
There's so much, too much to even, like every game has like an ARG style, except Manuel Samuel as of now, but we might be working on an update on that. But all Helheim Hassel and the Old Gashtan, they have this super intricate, complicated, optional puzzle that you can find. Like it won't give you an achievement or anything like that, but if you do manage to solve it, like it will give you an insight on like lore and the world, or like it might be a prophecy about like an upcoming event in the game's universe and stuff. So we have one of those in the Holy Gashtan 2. I can reveal that it is a tablet. You might find it. If you find this tablet and you go, what the heck is that? Then you either don't have to worry about it if you're just there to play the game, or you can worry about it a lot. You can spend a billion years trying to solve it. Helheim Hassel has a similar thing. Uh, People on that are hanging out on our Discord has been trying to solve it for 4 years now. They're really really close, so good job
Wow.
to them.
I,
But we like to add those. Also,
I
you
need to
have all
find this
the
tablet. I didn't find it. Now I'm gonna go replay it and be like looking out for it.
yeah, the tablet is pretty cool. I'm really happy with the tablet and the ways, like the stuff you have to do to be able to solve it is and people have been going on about it on the Discord as well, and that makes me so happy. And I'm like, I'm not gonna give any hints, but really fun. We did the same thing actually on one of the YouTube videos on YouTube as well.
The
We
dots.
put like this crazy. Oh yeah, that's on Helheim Hassel. There's a dot puzzle. That's not even the one I was thinking about. There's an even worse one that you can find. But yeah, we hide stuff like that all over the place. We hide foreshadowings, like subtle foreshadowings to every major spoiler in the game. I put all the I put spoilers to every major um, spoil plot twist in the game in the the song at the start as heaven is getting destroyed and the statues are flying around. Like I put spoilers in each of those shots, so like if you play it a second time, you can be on the lookout for those. Also, small references to like the other games, not as in, oh, that doll in the background kind of looks like the main character, but deeper stuff than that, that like, oh, that's why the other guy was doing that thing. But like, it's not something that you have to know, but like, it'll give you more insight about why some things are the way they are, or you know, things like that. Like, I put a detail on a very, very, very major character. It's not Cassiel, but it's the second biggest character in the game. Something is different about him, and nobody has commented on it yet. And it corrects itself during the course of the game because of a thing you do, and nobody has commented on it yet. That detail I'm still waiting for.
This is the nuggets I need. This is the juicy stuff. I need to replay it now. Like those that haven't played the game yet and are waiting. Oh, I wish I had these nuggets before.
And also, there's a character that turns out that character is a different character from another game in the trilogy. Like, it turns out that they are the same character that nobody has figured out or commented on either yet, which I'm waiting for.
I feel like you make these games just to troll everyone. Was it quite difficult? So not only is this game like really complicated and detailed with going back, because I know you've mentioned that you can go back whenever you want. You can also go forward whenever you want. So back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But then I also read that, and I think you mentioned it earlier, that the 3 games that you've made before are all from the same universe, and you can play them. So, and they're happening all at the same time. So the 3 games that you've got out, they're all happening in the same universe at the same time. How difficult was that to like, or was it difficult?
So when we made Manual Samuel, that was the first game. We didn't have a plan about doing a connected universe Marvel type thing, or even having all the games going on at the same day. But by Helheim Hassel, when we started Helheim Hassel, we knew. And we also knew that the next game was going to take place in heaven. So what I did on Helheim Hassel was intentionally leave some things blank. And I was like, I'll figure this out on the next game, and it'll look like I planned it all along. I'll just leave it blank. Like something weird will happen, and then they'll realize that, oh, they're the ones who did that in the next game. So I put in 2 of those in the plot of Helheim Hassel. And then there were some happy coincidences that it turned out Cassiel caused in Manual Samuel as well. I was like, oh yeah, maybe she did that, because you keep going in, traveling in time and doing things. So I was like, oh yeah. So the way that the games are connected is that the stuff that you do in Manual Samuel and Helheim Hassel, they end up having consequences in the Holy Gosh Darn that Cassiel has to deal with. And it turns out that some of the things that happened in Manual Samuel and Helheim Hassel, Cassiel did.
Sneaky.
Yes. And that's just like a plot thing. They don't like read each other's save files or anything. But if you think about them like movies, like the plots are intertwined in that way. The hard part was figuring out what time it was when certain things happened in Manual Samuel and Helheim Hassel, because we didn't have that concern when making those games. So we were like, okay, so if Cassiel did that thing that happens in Manual Samuel, what time was it when that thing happened? And does that make sense with the next chapter in the game? And it's like, all right, maybe it was 2:00 when that happened. So we had to change that a lot.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And sometimes you'll meet some characters that were in the other games, and we were like, yeah, but can you meet them at 3:00? Because what were they doing at 3:00 in the other game? And they're like, they were off screen. Okay, cool. We can use them to do something.
that is so detailed. So this is not spoilers, just a mechanic. Just so everyone knows, in Holy Gosh Darn, you got your little like I don't want to. I went to call it a time turner, and because you can't say that because that's a complete
The
different.
official
It's,
term is time space logic piece.
that's it. This or a space logic timepiece, right?
Yeah, might also
Yeah.
be that.
When you play the game, you'll get it. You'll get it. You'll get it.
You'll get it. You'll get it.
It's actual time. So you wake up at. She's like me for real. She wakes up at like 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it is very time. So it if something happens at 2 o'clock, it happens at 2 o'clock. So you're right. That must have been also very, oh gosh, very complicated to, yeah, I
Oh
just want
yeah.
to get a bit of
It
like
was a
context.
nightmare.
Um, you've got quite a good community. I was nosing in your Discord. I was everywhere today. And I was wondering, was there anything you put in the game that you were like, you know what, the community are gonna love this. They're gonna catch on to this. This is gonna be big. And actually it hasn't.
Yeah, the thing with the character that I mentioned that turns out is a different character because it's really subtle and nobody has noticed yet. But I'm waiting patiently.
Is there anything that you thought was quite small? So you kind of maybe put it in the game, not as an afterthought, but quite small, but your community has like jumped with it and it's gotten far bigger than you expected. And you're like, oh, they love this.
Oh, maybe the elders. Like I didn't know that the elders were like every time I watch like listen to a podcast or see like a review or like lurk on a stream playing the game, like everybody mentions the elders going, "Oh," when you insult them.
Yeah,
And
they do.
I was like, isn't it kinda I was like, man, I should write some other, and like I didn't have time to write like unique reactions to all of them, so like we literally used the same voice recording and stuff often of them just going oh, because they're all voiced by me and they're all essentially the same character in different costumes, and people just loved them going oh. So that was nice. I was like cool.
I was wondering more because I don't know if this is just because I do HR in my job, and maybe this is, I was just like wondered. It seems like you've got like a really nice culture of the small team, and one of the things that I noticed is that you had to delay the game for a little tiny bit, and you sang the announcement. Is that like?
That wasn't me. It was Bear John Johnson.
Oh, sorry,
He's
Bear
the
John
best
John. We're gonna.
bear musician of all time. Yeah, no, I I don't sing.
We'll get to Bear John Johnson. I love Bear John Johnson. We're going to talk about Bear John Johnson. But do you find that you know the feeling of the game kind of is the same in your you know in the company? Is it quirky and fun? Very
Yeah,
odd question, I
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. We're not. Yeah, yeah, let me see if I got the question right. Like, are we as dumb in real life as we make the? Are we as dumb as the games we make as a company? That's the question, right? Like, as
I
silly.
didn't say dumb, but if you want to say it, then you can.
No, but yeah, no. I mean, I don't think you could make a game like that if we were all like suit guys and we were like, we need to have a 7 hour, we need a 7 hour meeting today to discuss something. We don't do that. We rarely have any meetings, but that's mostly because we're such a small team, as you say. Like every time we we are home office now, but like every get together is a meeting anyway. But I mean, if there's a lot to do, which there always are, we're stressed and stuff, but we're never like super serious towards each other or like no, we're all fun people.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to get I'm trying to get the tea, everything, the game, the studio. I just realized the time, and I really do want to talk about Bear John Johnson. So there's a radio station, and Cassie's favorite artist is Bear John Johnson, and Bear John Johnson is everywhere. Someone, I don't know who, I found wrote all the songs, which is insane. Talk to me about Bear John Johnson. How, who, why?
Okay. Yes. So Bear John Johnson is a musician in the Perfect Paranormal universe, and he's a bear. So he's the best bear musician in the world. which is, I mean, he's not a good singer or anything like
I
that,
think he's
but
great.
for a bear, it's pretty good. And the way he came to be was through Helheim Hassel, because there is this character who is a bear and who loves music that shows up a bunch. And I'm trying to not to spoil things, but there is a bear that loves music in that game. And at some point he listens to a song, and all right, spoiler, i i might have I might be the one that loans his voice to Bear John Johnson. um there's this small 3-second shot of a character of a bear listening to music in Helheim Hassel, and that's just me and our musician at the time. We just press record and then we just improvise something. Like, at as we're recording, I came up with the lyrics, and it's like the dumbest song ever. And then later I needed somebody to reference the artist that the bear was listening to, and we were like, of course he has to listen to bear music, so it's probably a bear musician. And as stupid as all that sounds, but once again I just came up with a name, like the stupid, like I wonder if it you was supposed to be like a placeholder name, but he's like, yeah, that reminds me about like Bear John Johnson. That's so dumb. But that's another funny thing that we came up with, and that's now a rule in the Perfect Paranormal universe, that if you're a bear, a magic bear that can talk, like Bear John Johnson, then all their names are regular human names, but with just bear stuff. It's like Bear John, Bear Tawny, Bear whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so he had to talk about that character. So now we were like, oh, okay, so Bear John Johnson's is this character. And then later you go to this character's house. So we were like, well, he has to have a bunch of Bear John Johnson posters everywhere. So we started to come up with like fake Bear John Johnson song names and album names and stuff. And, I like being extra. So at some point, I just made another Bear John Johnson song called Murderer for Love. And the idea was just so hilarious to me, that there's a country singer who's a bear, and all the songs he sings is about being a bear and things that bears do. And what bears do is, if they see a mate, a male bear, if they see a female bear with cubs, they'll kill them so that they can mate with the female, if they can, because the female will try to um defend those cubs. So I made a country song about that, that goes like, I'm gonna murder your cubs so that we can make sweet love tonight. Murder your cubs. Which was fun. So then I was like, man, I want to make more bear music. So I kept doing that in my free time, and then we were like, we could have like a radio station with all the random weird songs we've had over the years in Perfect Paranormal, because there's a bunch of different songs in Helheim Hassel as well, and there are 2 or 3 songs in the Holy Gosh Town. One of them you really have to look for. But every song that wasn't in the Holy Gosh Town, we put in the radio, and we're like, wow, so finally we can use those songs for something that Olson has been spending a bunch of time and money on in his free time for fun. And then I was like, what if, Cassiel, she's an angel, maybe they listen to bear music, and then, Bear John Johnson is the whole thing.
I love that. And you said there's a hidden song, so now I need to go find it. I definitely I think I realized how, because I'm not gonna lie to you, the radio I turned it off, because once you wake up once and you're waking up 20 times, I was like, I can't anymore. I realized that I missed out on a whole bunch though, because I was watching the credits. So if you're playing the game, watch the credits, listen to the music. It is top 10.
Oh yeah, because there's another fictional artist in the Perfect Paranormal universe called Schlimblejack, and that's a rapper, and he's a dragon. And you know what? I made some songs for that too, because I was like, that's so funny to just make music, barely being able to sing, but like just for fun, like being a non-human musician talking about being the thing that they are. So Jack, of course, only sings about, not raps. I'm sorry, raps about being a dragon, and that to me is hilarious. Even though, you know, that's for specially interested. Like, you don't have to go dig up Jack songs. Also, if you notice, a random stupid name that super made up on the spot. They never
I,
have thought through names, these musicians.
No, see, you shouldn't have said that because I thought they would deliver it. I was like, this is great. How can Bear John Johnson? Like that is an amazing name. That wasn't made up. That was fully thought out. Was there any like things that you had to cut from the game that you regret? Anything? Any amazing characters or events that time or just wouldn't work? Tell us the secrets. Oh, I think we've frozen. So I'm going to use this time to post this little link. Is that the right link? If you want this game and the other games every month for 2025. You're back. Give me 2 seconds. Let me
Okay.
finish what I click that link and you can subscribe to the Slow Games Club too, and you'll get a different game frozen every month. But anyway, you're back.
What was I talking about? Oh yeah, something that we cut. There was a thing that we cut, but I was saying that I wasn't sad that we cut it because it spawned. First of all, it wasn't fun. I'm sad we couldn't make it fun, but we just ended up cutting it, and then also it spawned a different idea that I like a lot. So I'm kind of glad we cut it. But initially, when Cassiel appears for beings that are made of matter, like humans, dragons, dwarves, you know, flesh and blood characters, you had to manually make her comprehensible because angels are so celestial and amazing that uh, a, a being that has a vessel cannot comprehend it. So you had to make yourself manually comprehensible for them as you're talking to them. And if you fail to do so, their heads would explode. So there was like this mini game every time you tried to talk to somebody that wasn't an angel, where you had like this little thing that you had to like fit inside a thing, other thing that was moving at the same time as you were talking to the character. Because if you failed that, like they wouldn't understand what you're saying because you were incomprehensible, and then they would like start bleeding nose blood, and they would go, oh my
Oh
god,
my
and then their heads would explode, and you'd go, whoops, and then like rewind time. We ended up cutting that, but we came up with the no, actually, that idea was going to be in the game anyway. That was just going to make you comprehensible. But there's a certain item in the game that makes incomprehensible things comprehensible. So like you were supposed to like carry this item with you and give it to people before appearing for them, so that you didn't have to make yourself manually comprehensible. It was a whole thing. It wasn't fun, and we were like, nah, we're good. She'll just make herself comprehensible automatically.
I love these little secrets. I guess on like secrets and like things that maybe may have been cut. Um, I guess there's quite a few puzzles and little things you had to explore. Was there anything that you took out because you thought us gamers just wouldn't be able to comprehend? Any puzzles that were too difficult?
Not really. But we did used to have a certain form puzzle much earlier in the game. In fact, before you even upgraded the clock. But we noticed that the player hasn't played the game for long enough to find this puzzle fun yet, because they haven't been able to mess around with the clock enough. So we it's almost like the last boss of the game, that form. You you probably know what I'm talking about. There's a certain thing you have to fill out at the
We're
government.
gonna have words about that. that we're off camera, we're gonna have words. Was there anything that you put in the game on that you knew would frustrate the players, but you left it, you put it in on purpose because you like to frustrate us?
Oh
Like
yeah,
that form.
we did the whole thing frustrating, and also Elder Seven. He's of course frustrating on purpose, and he's very particular about a lot of things. Who else is annoying in the game that you have to deal with?
Oh,
Peter,
so
you
it was
know.
deliberate. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
and you know, we didn't even compromise. Like everybody, like some people would love the form thing, and some people go like, that just ruined the whole game. When we had it at the point that we had it in, so I knew that it was good. So we did simplify it a lot. It used to be much more annoying. Also, we made it much more forgiving, because now in the game, if you mess it up, then another character will straight up just tell you what you messed up, so that that's like a part of solving the puzzle. Like you can just ask them. Or also we added hints, and you know, most of our job is that, like, figuring out how we can make the player figure things out. And it's not on the player if they can't figure something out. Like that's on us as game designers. So like that's 75% of the job, trying to make something that people figure out. Making things that people can't figure out is easy. Making things that people can figure out, that's the hard part.
I really like that, and I've never heard it put like that before. So you said it's hard to what kind of like barriers did you cross trying to make these puzzles, I guess, doable and accessible?
um yeah, we would just make them like simpler, because you get narrow sighted, because you live and breathe this thing you're making. You know all the lore and all the characters and all the intentions with everything that you make. And then like you make somebody who doesn't know everything you have in your head play it, and you can't know what you missed that seems so obvious to you that is not obvious at all, and you don't know what that is yet before you played it, like tried it on somebody that doesn't know the inside of your brain. And since we're a small team, and we talk all the time about, oh, like that's this character and that character and this blah blah blah, like none of us are reliable testers. Like most of the time we can't tell if a puzzle is like you get better at it as you uh, live and breathe the game more. But especially at the start, like making the start of a puzzle game is super hard, and we scrapped a lot of things that didn't work. We scrapped a year of work because we were like, okay, we have to think differently when about how the game works and
You scrapped a
how.
year of work. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, but like it was, we remade that year of work in a month, you know? So a lot of that year was also spent on figuring things out. And then, like, once we scrapped it and we were like, okay, and then we made the start of the game over, but like that year wasn't wasted. We figured out
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to make the game good, even though we scrapped a lot of things. Like initially in the Holy Gosh Darn, it was supposed to work like Groundhog Day. Like you couldn't rewind time. You just had to play through the day till it, it got 6, and then heaven exploded, and then you woke up and you had to try again. And we made the whole first hour of the game like that, and we were like, this is not fun. What if you could rewind time anytime you want? Is there a reason like you have to live through the whole day? And we're like, no, but we do have to redesign a lot of puzzles that were like specially made. We tried to make them like make sense in a world where um you have to live through to the end.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like that was a thing that we changed. But yeah, also like the puzzles and the dialogues, everything just gets iterated and iterated, and we check people's reactions. And if they like laugh at a thing that happens in the game that I didn't even like. For me it's kind of funny, but then like people find it super hilarious. Then we like emphasize it. I'll make a more detailed animation of that thing happening so that you can't like miss it happening.
Do
Um,
you have any examples of that? I'm super interested. My next question was going to be like, what changed from like the beginning of the game to the end, and what kind of things surprised you that people found interesting?
um, One thing we had since the beginning, like since the first alpha of the game, is that one dog in the background that's like barking all day. Back in the day,
Yeah.
that was the only like thing going on as you're running to Peter. There was like this dog barking in the background, and constantly I'm like, we need to come up with fun. No, I didn't know that then. I would just We were like, all right, we have to figure out like how to waste the players' time, because they have to go like, no, wait, I can't waste time on this. And mostly we used to do that with over the long dialogue. That was also nice for me, because I was like, oh, it doesn't matter if this character talks like a bunch of random stuff. Usually on a different game, you have to cut that and make it shorter and stuff. And I was like, I mean, we still did, but like not as much, because some of the point is that they do spend a lot of time getting to the point. But that was like my only way of, back then I was like, yeah, that's how I'm gonna waste the player's time. But then everybody we tested it on always stopped to look at the dog barking in the background, because he has like a funny animation and makes funny sounds. And we were like, yes, of course, we need to just put a bunch of random funny things in the background, and like posters and all kinds of stuff that people must be like, man, I want to look at this thing, but I don't have time. But here I go. And then they're like, oh, that's funny. And then, oh, snap, it's 4 o'clock. Like, I wasted my time. I have to rewind. So that's when we added those characters that talk all day. And then we added another pair of characters that talk all day. We added all the posters that you can look at. We added,
I
what
got an
else did we add?
achievement for looking at all of those posters.
Very good. We put songs, like we put full songs in the radio. If you turn it on again after the initial Bear John Johnson song, it's just full of songs until the day ends. um we put like random events that happen, like if you stick around and like look at things, stuff from the other games show up. Yeah, so that was a nice thing that we noticed, that we added that. And the thing that changed a lot, yeah, so back in the day it was like Groundhog Day, and also it was like you moved in 3D space and you couldn't jump, and it was much more like a
Oh,
point and click kind of thing. We scrapped that, not
that's
fun.
such a
We were
big
like,
change.
yeah, we need more action in the game. Like you need to feel fast, and you have to jump and dash and try to, like, as you progress in the game, feel that you're getting faster, which is also some of the reason we scrapped a year of work, because we were like, all right, it's not gonna be in like in 3D space. It's gonna be a platformer. That we also noticed would be a nice thing once we figured out that it's much more fun to rewind and fast forward time on a whim.
I'm actually like mind blown. I listen to the bits of nuggets that you have, and it's really interesting because I had such a structure for my questions, and we've like jumped all over the place. But like I love that. Um, I really liked like I just want to like it's not really a question, just to talk about. Magnet says they love how salty the characters get when you cut them off. Oh, I remembered what I was going
Yeah.
to ask now, but anyway, and you've got a BEG. They're going, well, that's rude. How much fun did you have? Like, I can imagine that was quite fun having when you cut these characters off and having their little quips.
Very. Like I could barely stop writing that stuff. Also, we used a lot of different takes for the voices. If something like, usually you have to like pick one if you have a linear game, but we have the luxury of the fact that you can travel in time. So if there was like three good takes of a line,
I could use them
we would
all.
just put all of them in and then have it set on random. Um, it was really fun to write Cassiel's reactions, especially on the dialogues that she's heard before. So like she goes like get to the point or shut up or something,
She does it.
but like making her more and more annoyed the more times you do that. We have like a variable that if she has said shut up 3 times, she'll go shut up the fourth time, and then she'll do variations of that. On the eighth time, she'll say something even more rude. Like the more she has to say something over and over, she'll go more and more rude. And writing all those variations, both on the skips that the player uses and the variations on her first line of dialogue when you initiate somebody. That one usually keeps changing. Like I could barely stop myself. We made so many, and we made so many that rarely gets heard because there are characters that you can wrap up pretty quickly and usually on the first try, unless heaven blows up, that have so many Cassiel variations. Actually, like she'll go meaner and meaner, and
Yeah.
other cool variations on dialogue. That was
Because
the
her
most fun.
face
I don't even
changes as
remember.
well, doesn't it? She gets
Yeah,
like more annoyed, and I loved it. It's just like this is so real, and it was always when it's a good annoyance, but it was always when I was feeling something, she felt the same. And I know we touched on it before, but I saw that you mentioned that you wrote Cassie like completely from you, like you fidget and she fidgets. I think
yeah.
that's super cool, and I feel like it is written about me as well, and so I was like,
I think
oh, I'm playing myself.
I think a lot of people. I mean, I have heaps of ADHD, so I think people with
Same.
ADHD will really feel seen playing the Holy Gosh Darn. Like I haven't seen a character with rest leg, l- restless
That's just
leg
leg
syndrome in
syndrome.
a game before, and I'm proud that Cass has that. Every time she sits down, her leg starts going,
Yeah.
and also the way I would write dialogue is I'd write it the way a normal game, like the way it would go down in a normal game where you trigger a character and then they'll start positioning and stuff. And then I would rewind time and listen to it again and note when I got bored, like for every point that I got bored of the dialogue that I've heard before.
Ah.
And then I would put a to the point skip or a reaction to those parts of the dialogue. And even after um, once we were done with all the recordings and stuff, we worked on the game for almost 1.5 years past that. So, and then at that point, we had heard those dialogues 1,000 times, 1,000 times each dialogue. So then we got like even more impatient with those dialogues. So we added even more. And luckily, I had written a bunch of like general get to the point lines. Like she just goes, "Oh, will you just get to the point?" Or "I don't have time to listen to this." Like words that could work on any dialogue. So we added even more on top so that like she is impatient as we were when we had heard those dialogues 1,000 times. And that was enough because then the players loved it because you always have like this. It's so much more interesting to you as the dev or the writer what the character
Mhm.
says and stuff, and you're like, I expect people to listen to all of this, and then people just go, oh, there's so much talking and stuff in this game. But like we did it, uh we were as rude to ourselves as the creators of the game as somebody who's seen it 1,000 times, and that was like the sweet spot for a regular person like coming and trying the game, because people have been really positive about the dialogue and the skipping and the humor and stuff of the game.
The dialogue is brilliant. There's this time, I don't think this is a spoiler. You're doing coffee quite a lot, and I done it. I don't want to tell you how many times I made that coffee, and she mirrored my thoughts exactly. And I think it's very interesting to see how you got the reactions. It's you played it, and then when you got annoyed, she was annoyed, um, and it works. I'm always mesmerized when games can do that, and when the same thing can happen over and over again, but then the reactions are different, if that makes sense. Like the dialogue is
Yeah.
slightly different. When you're talking to Peter, he's like, yeah, I know this bit. And yeah, I was gonna say a spoiler there, so I was like, no, yeah.
No, but that's my biggest pet peeve with every game. Like even like big budget games, you like I have this one example of this with. I was playing a huge AAA game, and in this game you get a companion. It's not Baldur's Gate, by the way. Baldur's Gate is perfect. But it was a different AAA game. You get a companion, and then you can get in a car with this companion. And this is a huge, huge, huge franchise, huge game. This companion is with you for like 8, 10 hours, and you get into cars all the time. It's like one of the main things you do in this game. You get into cars, and every time your companion got in the car with you, she says the same dialogue in the exact same way. And I'm like, you have modeled all the skin pores of the warthog. You have real life simulated grass particles. You couldn't record two dialogues for this character. Like, they're so. And everybody's always like, oh, how's the graphics? How's the graphics? It has to have fidelity. And then like nothing takes me out more than you're supposed to have this alive world and everything is so realistic, and then like the super realistic animated skin pore character sits inside the car and says the same exact thing every time. Isn't that not fidelity realistic? I mean, that's not realistic. That sucks. So I was like, I'm not about, we're not about that. We're gonna try to, I mean, in the Holy Gosh Turn as well, there's a lot of the same dialogue triggering, but at least that makes sense in the context of the game. Like the biblical eagle creature says, well, if it isn't Cassiel out and about in the exact same way. And that's supposed to be like that. But anytime it wouldn't make sense, like we tried to have that line different. And some of them slip through the cracks. I mean, there are 6,000 and something lines of dialogue in the game. I still notice sometimes, like if I do this particular thing in this particular way, Cassiel will say the same dialogue twice in a row, and it jars me, and I feel like I failed, and I'm like, I can't believe she says the same thing. The one thing I hate, I swapped all those, but there's always like a couple in the game somewhere.
Oh, I
Don't notice those. Don't find them.
well, now I'm gonna have to play it again, and now I'm gonna be like looking for the
No.
and I'm gonna message you. I'm gonna be like, I found
No.
I one of the things that I really liked, right, is that when I first started playing it, I was like, oh, how are they gonna get this right? Is so the game obviously is urgent, right? You've got 6 hours, it was like 20 minutes kind of in like in real life to save the world. But I can rewind, right? So at the beginning, I was like, oh, I can listen to all of this dialogue, right? Because actually, if it takes too long, I can just rewind. But I got so immersed that I forgot sometimes that I can waste time, if that makes sense. How did you do that? How did you, in the game where you have unlimited time, basically, create that urgency at the same time? How did you do that? I was like finding myself going, no, shush, I can't listen to you. And then I'm like, what? I could just go back. How did you manage that?
So even, I mean, that was a concern I had as well, and I tried to lampshade it early in the game. Death says, in a way, you have infinite time, so you can waste time if you want, but kind of also not, you know. So I was like, all right, and yeah. So first we tried to combat that with having you actually having to do a series of tasks, so that you have to complete like 4 or 5 different things in a certain order, and that will actually take you like 15 minutes or something if you're not fast. um then but then we were like, is that how it's going to be all the time? Like all the time you have to do all this butterfly effect thing, and that's not going to be fun. And we also noticed through testing that you can all, like, the maximum amount of um, branches you can have in a quest line is 3. Like you have, you must do 3 things to manage to do what you're actually trying to do. Any more than that, it's not fun. It's boring,
That's
too
interesting.
complicated. So we have a couple where you have to do a series of things like a chain quest. But one of the tricks we did was having certain things happen late in the day. Like
Mm.
Peter, he says, I'd only do a certain thing if you only had 1 hour left before a certain other
Yeah,
thing.
I was like,
So you so you have to fast forward to that time, and now you don't have to play through 20 minutes of game to get to that urgency part, because you skip to you skip to the urgency part even though you have 20 minutes. Also, Cinder and Brock, they have a
ah.
whole thing going, but they don't open before 4. Or we could have something that you have to make, like a certain thing you're trying to get to, that's happening earlier, like Elder 7 falling asleep at 3 instead of heaven blowing up at 6. And then um I noticed we used to do a lot of chases in Helheim Hassel, the like chase sequences, and we would always have the thing chasing you like right behind you, and if you messed up anything, like you would lose. And they were always too hard. So we were like, let's just not have the thing that's supposedly chasing you actually chase you. Let's just stop it somewhere. And
Oh no. Okay, we've frozen, so I will segue for like 2 seconds. Uh Bryn mentioned that the
I
passion that was a oh,
okay,
are
I'm
you
back.
back?
I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ignore
So
my
yeah,
segue. Basically, if you like the passion coming off as then at the moment, go on their YouTube and I watch their videos all day. It is the love for the game. It's amazing. But yeah, I was segueing while you were frozen, but you're back. So
right. No, I was just saying, if the character is stressed, then the player is going to be stressed as well, even if things
mm,
aren't that urgent. So, I'd have Cassiel be stressed. I'd have other characters go like, oh no, what? And then Cassiel would, like, we had to often remind the player of what's going on, because you would go on these tangents to find something in order to find something else. And then once you found the first thing, I'd make them go, so what did we need this thing for again? Oh yeah, it was that other thing. To both remind the players and the characters of what's going on. And then they would go like, oh, all right, let's hurry up and do that before it's too late. So I just like wrote the characters stressed, and that often carries over to the player. But as you say, you have infinite amounts of time. You actually don't have to stress while playing the Holy Gosh Down, even though people are really stressed. But we do also put other time constraints, or like
mm,
the bombs. That's a different. So not only heaven exploding, there
that was
always
fun.
be something that you're trying to do in a certain amount of time. That would also stress people, but like in small segments. We didn't want people stressed like through the whole 15-minute time loop. We would rather have small 1 minute sequences that will be super stressful, and then you do that and you go like, oh cool, oh also I have a new shortcut now to get here, so that I don't have to go through all those hoops to get here again, because that was the initial plan. Like you have to go through all those hoops every time so that things are urgent. But we were like, that's not fun. Let's
I
make
found one of
let's
those shortcuts really late, and I was like, but that's just me being me. I just realized the time I like have been just chatting away, forgetting that we need to end. So apologies if there's loads of people that have loads of questions. But does
I'm
anyone
back.
have any oh, you froze. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask? Now is the time to do so. Apologies, I don't need much time for these because I got carried away listening. um, uh, yeah. So any questions? Type them in chat now. If not, um, I will ramble on and ask my own questions. Is there anything? What are you? What is one of the things that you're like most proud of? If you could draw our attention to anything, if there's anything we haven't answer my question next. I've asked you enough, right? Marcelo, I was just changing it because of time. That's a good question. Do you have any more games that you would like to play in the same universe on the same day?
Yeah, I mean, we at Perfect Paranormal, we will, if we make something, it's gonna be in the Perfect Paranormal universe with the same.
Oh,
Like we always like to expand. We started in Earth slash Hell, and then we did Norse mythology, and then, I was kind of like, all right, let's do Heaven, even though it's the same thing as Hell, mythology wise, but like we would like to like do all the different things. Right now, we're not actually working on any on like a new title. We are working on something. Well, I can talk about it. We're working on a Manuel Samuel
okay.
update. That's gonna tie it more with the trilogy, since we made it before it was thought to be a trilogy. But I mean, we are 4 people in the core team, and we made some games. Like, I've seen reviewers review the game not being sure if it's an indie game. Like, they're like, I think it's indie, or they might be 400 people, but we were like, we were I mean, and 3 of us that were working full-time on the game were like, we were 4 in the core team, and one of us was admin, and that's a lot of work too. But our team is ridiculously small, so it took a lot finishing the Holy Gosh Dance. So we're like we're gonna take a little break and try
Yeah.
to pull ourselves together. Try to not do a crazy game like the Holy Gosh Dance again. But when we do make more games, I mean, I have already written, not like in a detailed way, but in my brain and in some post-it notes all over the place. Like the next trilogy, that's a direct continuation from the Tuesday trilogy. They won't take place at the same day. We're not crazy. Fool me once, shame on you. But I won't do another. I'm not gonna do the Wednesday trilogy, but it's written like, there's a plan for a different trilogy with weird gameplay mechanics once again. Um, I have ideas for prequels and spin-offs, and I mean, we might do comics, for a while, just. But anything we do, it's gonna like build on the Perfect Paranormal universe, and I would love to make a million games and 7 novels and a Netflix show, but if we do make anything, it will be um, in the Perfect Paranormal universe. Yes, that's the short question.
Just because I'm conscious of time, I'm gonna like whiz through these questions. So Mivi wants to know how brain melting was the dialogue trees and outcomes like? What scale 1 to 10? How hard were they?
17. I wish I could show people like Florple. Do you remember Florple, the board game that you play in Hell?
Yep, I do. How
That
can I forget?
sequence took like I continued to work on the dialogue tree of that sequence. We all did, but we worked on that on and off, or like there was always something wrong with it. And like, it's not an exaggeration to say that that took years to make. The dialogue tree of Florple.
Jeez.
Like, we would work on other things, but there was always something going on with Florple. Peter's dialogue tree is a complete ridiculous mess. There's so much stuff going on there. Elder 7, like, he can fall asleep at any time. He does a lot of actions and stuff, and that, like, it looks ridiculous. And now that I haven't looked at it for a while, like, since I don't have it infused in my brain what goes where, like, if I went into one of those trees today, I would go like, oh, okay, what do I do? Yeah, brain melting. I'll post. Actually, I did post some. The Florple dialogue tree is actually on Blue Sky. On my, I made like a huge thread about how we made it Holy Gosh Darn on Blue Sky. You
What's
can
your
see the
handle for people
Florple
wanna?
tree there.
Is it
It's
the Project
Ozan.
Paranormal or Ozan?
I did it on my own account, which is Ozan Drusdal.
Do you want
I'll write
to
it in
spell that
chat.
out? Yeah. Will
I'll write
will
it
that
in chat.
answer the question of are the
There
branching
you go.
dialogues big if else blocks? Will that uh, branching narrative of the game, will that answer that question? Does that make sense? Okay.
Well, we had to make our own system, our dialogue system. We started doing that, making that system on Helheim Hassle because I didn't want characters to say the same thing twice if you trigger them there either. So we did a system, and what we've used is the statement is was displayed. So if a node has been displayed, then it goes to a different node. But since the Holy Gosh Darn is a time travel game, so what happens is if you talk to a character and they say a thing, and then you go, all right, cool, thank you, and you don't travel in time, and you talk to them again, they'll go, as I said, blah, 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 or hey, it's you again,
Okay.
because we have that was displayed thing. But also we had a condition called was ever displayed, and that's through the course of the game, because the was displayed that gets undone if you travel in time before that was displayed. Was ever displayed, that was usually on Cassiel's reactions,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
that checks if that has been ever displayed in the course of the game. So if Cassiel says hello, my name is Cassiel, and then you go back in time and then you talk to them again, she'll go hello, my name is Cassiel, because she said it before. Um, so she had was ever displayed and was displayed on her, because, or you can talk to somebody again and Cass will say something again without haven't traveled in time in that timeline. So she'll go, hello, I'm Cassiel, and then you quit, and then you'll go back without moving in time, and she'll go, hi again, it's me again, I'm Cassiel. And she won't say that if you go back in time, because that wouldn't make sense for the other character. Did they go like, again, have we spoke before? So she had like two branches for, yeah, it was a nightmare.
I
But you get the point. That was the thing that we had to juggle around.
I admire devs, but I could never be one because this is my mind. I don't know if I have the patience, and there's definitely a personality trait that I unfortunately don't have. The time has like snuck up on us, so I guess like this is basically the end, and it's really sad because I could speak to you, all day. I'm gonna do like a quick wrap up. So if you haven't subscribe to the Slow Game Club. Here is and you'd like to, here's a little link. There was supposed to be a little thing that goes phew at the bottom, but I probably broke that. And Into Games will tell me off when I come off, but it's all right. Every month we will be doing this. We'll be playing a new game and we'll be talking to the devs, and no pressure to any other devs because I think as an you've raised the bar. You've set such a high standard. This chat, I loved it. I kind of forgot that I'm supposed to be doing this because people are watching and just chatted away like we were having a coffee or whatever.
Thank
But
you.
is there any last words that you would like to?
Um, yeah, I thank you for having me, first of all, and I love talking about this stuff, as you may have noticed, because I always answered every question with a 75-hour long answer. But if anybody wants to like ask me more things in the Perfect Paranormal universe, or how we made the game or whatever, I hang out on our Discord a lot, so everybody is welcome there to discuss the games. Or you can find me or the Perfect Paranormal handle on Blue Sky. I post a lot of like deep lore or other nerdy dialogue related things there sometimes. So that's cool. Or if you wanna check out more about the offshoot things like songs and whatever random things we decide to make, like Demon of the Day or whatever it is, then you can check out our YouTube. But yeah, if you want to have a conversation, then Discord or Blue Sky, I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Yeah, and on that note, if you haven't played the game, or you're going to play the game, you're thinking about playing the game, how the love that you can see that Uzan has talking about it, it's really in the game. You can feel it's a game of like love and enjoyment. You can tell the devs had so much fun, well, probably stressed sometimes, but fun making the game. And on that note, we will see you all again next month. Yeah, and for those who are new, you will get the game earlier. We promise. This was a surprise present to everyone, so it was a lot. It was last minute. Next month you'll have time to play it before you listen to us yap about it. Yeah, we'll see you next month.
See you. Not me though. Won't be here next month, but see you.
Oh, bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.